This is exactly how you're going to get rich off of debt. My name is Colin Yerkeson, and I've been leveraging other people's money at extremely low interest rates to 0% interest rates for the past 6 years, buying extremely scarce assets like Bitcoin mining companies and Bitcoin. In this video, I'm going to give you the exact step-by-step on how you're going to leverage other people's money to get extremely rich while the dollar collapses in front of our eyes. So the idea here is we want to borrow money for as cheap as possible or free, preferably 0% interest, and we want to have a long as possible term, 12 months, 24 months, 36 months or more. Okay, the reason why we want it long is because the dollar continues to drop in purchasing power every single year. The past 5 years, the dollar has lost 40% of its purchasing power. Okay, inflation is rampant, and you can buy less and less goods with your dollars every single year. Everyone knows this by now. Okay, so the entire goal and the entire premise with this video and this strategy is we want to borrow and buy assets and never sell them. Okay, you can access this kind of money through business credit cards at 0%, which is what I help people with every single day in my program Credit Class. If you want to learn more about how we do this professionally, click the link in the description below. You can use portfolio loans against your stock portfolio. You can take out a home equity line of credit against your mortgage. You can take out a business line of credit against your business. You can take a personal line of credit, or you can leverage Bitcoin-backed loans or other crypto-backed loans. Okay, you're going to borrow cheap money, right? All these dollars are just on fire, basically. They're melting ice cubes in your bank account, so you want to get rid of them. And we're going to deploy it into the scarcest asset of all time, or if you like real estate, you can do that as well. But in this case, I'd rather just pick Bitcoin. There's only 21 million Bitcoins that will ever be in creation. There's already 95% of the supply that is in circulation, and they're never making more of it, okay? And it's the best performing asset of the last 15 years, so it's a no-brainer. Why would you not be focusing on the absolute best, most pristine asset class, okay? I want to give you some visual representation of what we're doing here, right? So the asset that we purchase, in this case, we're just going to use Bitcoin, is going to be appreciating, okay? As you can see, this is the price chart. We have the 2017 all-time high, which was at 20K. Then we went up to 69K. Now we're at 120K, okay? And the cycle's not over yet. We'll probably top out somewhere between 150, maybe 180, maybe 200. And then we'll have another bear market most likely. Now, what's happening in real time is, it looks like Bitcoin value is going up, but really what's happening is the US dollar purchasing power is just going down. Okay, so they're printing unlimited amounts of money, trillions and trillions of dollars, and all of that money is finding its way into a scarce asset class like Bitcoin. So the more they print, right, when they're printing money like in 2021 during the COVID era, this was all a result of the stimulus that was entered into the system from the central banks, right? And it pumped up Bitcoin's price. And then central banks went into quantitative tightening to bring inflation down. And then Bitcoin sold off, right? But banks are addicted to cash, right? They're like heroin addicts. They need to keep printing more. So they fired up the printers again. Central banks all around the world printed more money. And now, as you can see, Bitcoin is flying, right? Because those dollars need to find a home. So our purchasing power is not eroded, and we are protecting ourselves against inflation. So the smartest investors in the world are parking their purchasing power inside Bitcoin because it's a truly scarce asset at 21 million, okay? So what are the best assets that we can buy and scale with other people's money? Well, I think the first and most important thing is going to be your own business for cash flow. Okay, we need cash flow. We need to have value in life that we're giving out to others, and in return of that value, we're going to be getting paid. So in my instance, I have two businesses. One of them is Credit Class, where I help people access 0% capital through multiple different methods, and we help deploy that money into different asset classes, whether that be their own business, real estate, Bitcoin mining, etc. Then I have my Bitcoin mining company that we started in 2022. We almost have 100 clients now across all 50 states, and we help high income earners mitigate taxes with Bitcoin mining. Okay, this is a multiple seven-figure business. This is a seven-figure business. So I use this cash flow that's coming in to pay off my credit cards, okay? And I'm gonna explain why I do that, okay? Because when I'm using credit, for example, if I get a $100,000 0% interest business credit card, I'm going to deploy that into Bitcoin mining, okay? And there's a couple reasons why. Number one is Bitcoin miners, now that we're in 2025 and Trump just passed the big beautiful bill, Bitcoin miners qualify for Section 179, which is 100% bonus depreciation in year one. And the electricity, the setup fee, all the other expenses are 100% write off as well. So if I deploy 100K into my Bitcoin mining business, okay, I'm going to get that $100,000 back that I'm using of the bank's money in Bitcoin over the next 4 years. And I'm also going to get a $100,000 write-off, which equates to about a $37,000 tax savings, okay, in year one, right? So if I had a $50,000 tax bill, now I'm only going to pay 13 grand. Okay, so you can just see how massive this impact is when you're going to mitigate tax. And I always like to do this with other people's money. And I don't want to use all my capital from my Bitcoin or my portfolio or the cash in my accounts, right? I want to keep that stuff growing in the investments I'm going to show you. And then I'll just use the bank's money at the end of the year to get the write-off. And then I'll just pay the bank back over the next 12 months, right? It's very easy for me to pay back 10K a month for the next 10 to 12 months and just pay that credit card off, and there's zero interest, right? I'll take some of the income coming in from my businesses and I'll just make monthly payments instead of me having to pay 100K all at once, okay? So that's what I like to do. Another thing you can do is you could use the 0% card to purchase 100K worth of miners, and then you could apply for another round of funding after 1 year because it only lasts for 1 year, the 0% intro rate, and you can then do a balance transfer or onto the other cards that you just got, and now you have another year of 0%. So that's 2 years, and this investment typically takes 2 years to ROI. You know, when the Bitcoin value in dollar terms appreciates to the amount that you invested into the business. That's our average length of time for the ROI for our clients. And so you could just sell off the Bitcoin if you wanted to and pay off the cards. That way you have another 2 years free and clear to mine, and the banks literally purchase that asset for you. Okay, I don't like to sell. I don't want to sell my Bitcoin. I'd rather just hold it because I can borrow against it in the future. Now there's talking about passing laws in Congress where you can mortgage against your Bitcoin. You can literally pull out a home loan against your Bitcoin now. So there's so much development happening, and I don't want to have to sell. So that's what I do. You can also take out a business credit card, liquidate it, and you can buy Bitcoin spot if you want, right? You want to own some spot Bitcoin. Maybe you're in a bear market. You know, Bitcoin has dropped to 60K. It's a perfect time to buy some. Go ahead, right? Because mining, you're going to be dollar cost averaging essentially over 4 years. So if there is a really good opportunity at the spot price, you can go ahead and liquidate some money off and buy it. Now, if you want to, have access to more of a leveraged bet Bitcoin strategy, I would look into MicroStrategy, right? This is Michael Saylor's company. The stock is up literally, I think, 1,500% in the past 24 months. MicroStrategy uses debt offerings, and they basically sell their stock to buy more Bitcoin. And then they also have some other instruments that I'm going to talk about in a little bit that act as fixed income instruments that's literally going to replace the U.S. Treasury and bond market. And all this fixed income, trillions of dollars around the world, is going to flow into these vehicles, okay? So I think strategy is just going to continue to explode over the next few decades here. Potentially could be the largest company in the world in 50 to 100 years, just with the sheer appreciation of Bitcoin, and they already hold 6% of the Bitcoin supply. So you could liquidate some money off your credit cards, in a bear market would be ideal, and invest into strategy. If you want the Japanese version of strategy, I would look into Metaplanet. This is the second largest Bitcoin treasury company in the world. And the reason why this one is so appealing is because in Japan, if you sell stocks, you are taxed at 55%. Okay, that is insane. So a lot of people are avoiding the stock market, and instead, if you buy Bitcoin, you are taxed at 55%, okay, if you sell. But if you buy stocks, it's a lot better, right? The taxes aren't as high. And then if you buy stocks in your retirement account, there's no taxes at all. So a lot of people in Japan are using Metaplanet, this Bitcoin strategy company, basically it used to be a hotel company. They only have one hotel left now, and they basically, all they do is buy Bitcoin. They do debt offerings. They do, different strategic methods to purchase more Bitcoin. And in return, their share price goes up of their stock. So this is another leverage bet. And the fact that, people in Japan can't really buy Bitcoin otherwise, this is exploding. So this is another one. This is a little more high risk, much more volatility. And then finally, this is a new product called Stretch from MicroStrategy. And this is essentially a high yield savings account. Okay, so they just launched this yesterday. This launches as a $100 price, and it's at a 10% yield right now. So they have some different mechanisms and tools that's going to allow them to keep the price between $99 to $101, and they're going to essentially have the yield. It's a variable yield, but right now when the product is launched, it's at 10% interest. Okay, so this is going to essentially replace bonds, and this is in its infant stage right now. But I do believe that Michael Saylor is honestly one of the smartest guys I've ever seen. And I do believe that his ideas are going to play out as they have already. And the entire world is going to start using these instruments instead of the bond market, because it's literally U.S. Treasuries backed by Bitcoin instead of nothing. Okay, now, obviously, there's a lot of risk with what I'm talking about. So timing is important, right? Ideally, you want to borrow 0% money in the bear market. Okay, right now, if you were to borrow 0% money, let's say you got $100K and you bought Bitcoin at $120,000. We've been up only since the beginning of 2023. Okay, so this is probably not a good time to buy Bitcoin spot. Now, buying Bitcoin miners, this is a phenomenal time because you're getting a discount compared to spot at about 50% right now. We just had the largest difficulty adjustment drop last month since 2021. And so you can mine Bitcoin over the next 4 years, get a better average cost, and you're going to accumulate a lot more compared to buying spot at this current point in time. You can basically, buy Bitcoin in the next bear market spot. If you want to buy MicroStrategy, or, a really good thing you can buy right now is Stretch, the new product, because this is basically a high yield savings account. And this is where a lot of money is going to be flowing if we do enter a bear market. This is, what usually people do. They take their money out of risk on assets and they put it inside of, safe T-bills or bonds, short-term duration, fixed instruments. Okay. So those are some suggestions. And, basically you would purchase assets with 0%. And I like to use my active income to pay the banks back over time instead of having to sell these underlying assets. Okay. So the entire goal with this video is I want you to realize that your entire job right now is to stack as much Bitcoin out of 21 million as possible. Okay, there's only 21 million. If you own one Bitcoin, you own one out of 21 million, and that will never change. So I truly believe that Bitcoin is going to go to multiple millions of dollars per Bitcoin in the next 10 to 30 years. Okay, that's in our lifetime. So if you're watching this at 20 years old or 30 years old or even 40 years old, you can literally set your family up for life just by locking in and being diligent and borrowing as much money as possible and using your active income to acquire as much of the scarcest asset of all time as possible. Okay, so I do this specifically with business credit cards at 0% with my company Credit Class. And if you want to learn how I'm helping over 1,000 people borrow money at 0% to acquire Bitcoin or scale other assets and their businesses, then all you have to do is click the link in the description below to apply. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you share this with a friend or family member to wake them up, because this is urgent and Bitcoin is going to continue to rise for the rest of our life, right? One Bitcoin is going to be so unattainable in the next couple years, it's not even funny. So get those sats, stack those sats, take out as much crappy money as possible and deploy it into scarce assets, okay? This is not a drill. This is urgent. I appreciate you. Subscribe, like, comment down below. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.